Welcome to another edition of Wings Weekly. Jay Kleinknecht here, and of course, joining me is assistant coach Mike Hill. Coach, before we get into this, I wanted to congratulate another addition to the Wings family, Kirby and Lindsay Odie, welcoming Lenny into the world over the weekend, and congratulations to you from all of us and all of the Wings family for sure. Coach, we go back. We've got 3 games to talk about this week. Wednesday, here at the Odie, a 2-1 loss to Minot. Liam Fraser gets the Wings on the board with 5 minutes left. I mean, it was a really tight, close game. And honestly, there haven't been a whole lot of close games this year. There's been a lot of 4-1 wins and that kind of thing. So it had a different feel to it, and it was pretty exciting, actually, from an entertainment standpoint. But we talked about it on Friday before the game, that it wasn't like it was a poorly played game. It was a very good goaltending for Minot. But there were a lot of things that you guys did right, and it just a tightly contested matchup. What did you guys think of Wednesday?
I think just for us, the execution just wasn't there. Mm-hmm. We weren't having those finishing touches, and Minot just kind of kept it in and kept the whole game concealed. After that first goal, they kind of they definitely played a simpler hockey game after that. I think for us, we were just fighting each other a little bit. Like, just the things that we were doing was just not the way that we normally play, and we were trying to a little bit too much by ourselves. And then you see it at times where not getting the good shot qualities, and that at the end, if you aren't getting the good area shots, their goaltender is going to play good, just how we know that he's capable of.
Mm-hmm. Well, and like we talked about before Friday's matchup, that was going to be one of the keys, was shots that were in the right places and not so much from the perimeter, and that ended up being really important, along with the specialty teams on Friday's game, which ended up being a 6-1 win, where the power play was 3 of 6 and the penalty kill was 100%. So, like I said on Saturday, you kind of called it Friday night exactly right, where the specialty teams came up huge, and shots in the right location, in that in between the circles kind of area.
Yeah, definitely. And our power play went 0 for 3 on the Wednesday night, and then we kind of just made a couple of tweaks there, and just a lot of it. I like to give the guys a lot of freedom on the power play. They're so creative, they could really make their own plays. I kind of tell them this is what to expect from a killing standpoint, and you guys kind of I trust you guys to make sure you're doing the right thing. And I think that's, at the end of the day, you can't be controlling over them. You got to just let them do it, because I'm not going to be out there passing pucks or shooting it. And
sure,
it's all them. And all of our power play goals too on Friday night were in the same location, like you said, in between the dots on top of the crease, and that if we're able to get to that point on the ice and get those shots, those are going to be high scoring chance shots.
And it kind of trickled into Saturday night. You guys score first, Minot takes the lead, and very, very few opportunities, or I shouldn't say opportunities really, but cases where you've had to play from behind this year, but it has happened on occasion. But you end up with a 4-3 come from behind win. Again, the power play 3 of 4, and the penalty kill was 1 of 7. And I honestly think the penalty kill was huge on Saturday night. Twice having to kill off 5-on-3.
Yeah.
And it really came up big. What your thoughts on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, there's some big time leaders that stepped up on the 5-on-3. They knew exactly what to do, and when they were called upon, they did what they needed to do for the team. And the power play goal we did let up, it was just kind of a scramble. I mean, we had 2 players collide into each other trying to get it out on a clearing, and then they kind of just were able to step right up onto the plate and kind of finish a rebound there on Cybele. And it was a little bit of a scramble play where I think we just a little bit of miscommunication into that kill. But other than that, the guys, when called upon, they really brought their game, especially the power play. Again, like you said, 3 for 4. Mante's finding a good way to just put the puck in the back of the net, and he had 2 of them. And he's just been a rocket out there, just finding the way to, get the puck there.
Yeah, most goals in the league right now for Thomas Mante at 23. I wanted to talk with, since we're talking power play and how well it did over the weekend. You and I spoke briefly on the bus, actually, after Saturday night's game about the power play. And I wanted you to kind of pass along what you had told me about the 6-second rule and what the point of the power play is and what your goal is. I mean, obviously the goal is to score a goal,
yeah.
but I thought that was kind of interesting especially because from a fan standpoint, you see the puck cycling around and being passed and so on, but it's sort of a blitz in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, just try to get a shot as often as you can. I mean, you do that. I think you're going to give the PK a little bit of stress. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of like that. Just trying to, find ways to just shoot the puck, and that's why I tell the guys, the best way to score is to shoot the puck.
Yeah.
As silly as that sounds, and 99% of goals are shots.
Yeah.
So there's other types of goals out there that just freak goals, but like at the end of the day, like 99%, if you're not going to shoot the puck, you're not going to be scoring a whole lot.
Right. The 6-second rule, though, was something that you had mentioned that is kind of known throughout hockey, no matter what the level is.
Yeah.
But you want to try to generate those shots as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I know. Like at the NHL level, at any of the coaches' seminars, and when they talk power play, they're talking about getting a shot every 6 seconds, and especially right away. And so that's just one thing that I tell our guys. Like 6 seconds is a prime time to try to get a shot and generate it every 6, and if you're not, it's not the end of the world. Just that's a good goal to kind of have.
Right. I thought that was interesting though. That like I said, the 6-second rule, trying to get as many off as you can, as quickly as you can, because ultimately that's the way you're going to score, like you mentioned. In St. Cloud, you had Josh Aycock, the goaltender coach, helping you out on the bench. As Coach Langer, of course, is with his wife and babies. And this week up in Minot, you had Steve Jennings, the Director of Player Personnel, with you. I wanted to talk a little bit about how that went and what that experience is like. Steve knows the game very well, obviously, so does Josh, but different chemistry once again. That's got to be kind of interesting.
I mean, Steve recruited me way back, what is it now, 12 years ago when I played for Langer. So, I mean, he's obviously been around the game for a while.
Yep.
Steve's kid, or his son plays at Ohio State, D1 kid there. And, Steve knows the game. He's been around it. He's a big part of it in the Tier 1 U18. So with the recruiting, obviously, Director of Player Personnel, he gets to see basically all the players that make it into this locker room. And, he knows this team just because he's a big part of the chemical makeup that was able to bring these players in. And, with Steve jumping on the bench, I think it was like he already knew the guys. He knew what to expect and everything like that. And, Steve did a great job, just how Josh did too.
Yeah.
And again, he like how Josh was, he was in my ear asking questions, and talking about the defensive core, like who plays where, and, what do you think about this partner group up? And I was like, yeah, it's good. And at the end of the day, Steve's another guy I could trust and know that he's going to do the right things as well, because Steve's a winner as well.
For sure.
So that's a good thing about Steve, is that with his program too, that he has a good winning program at the U18 Tier 1 level, and there's a lot of winners in this organization. I think that's one thing that Smack keeps close to him is the winners, because the winners know how to win, and those winners hate to lose.
Yeah. Well, Coach Langer's mentioned that on several occasions of how big of a role and how important that Steve has been to this organization. A lot of these players actually have played for Steve too. I mean, Trevor Russell, Andrew Senard from years past. There's been others that have.
Michael Reed this year as well. We got a couple of kids from his team as well coming for futures.
And Steve actually, he and I talked a little bit about maybe even coming on the show at some point. We're not sure how we're going to do that, with a Zoom meeting with a video or something, but to talk about players and who some of the players that have been tendered and so on. So I thought that was pretty cool. I'm looking forward to that. I'm not sure technically how we're going to go about it, but we'll figure it out. 16-0 on the road, not easy to do. It's tough to win on the road in this league. You turn around and head back on the road to take on the Wilderness, who split with the Steel over the weekend, a team that you really haven't seen all that much, and not since the beginning of February. First of all, how are you guys able so far to have the success that you've had on the road, and how do you prepare for the Wilderness?
You know, just kind of looking at it for the road games for us, there's nothing really fancy about it. They're going to be greasy, grindy wins at the end of the day, and it's just got to put in the right work. Knowing that, you know, we're stepping foot in someone else's building, I think for us is to try to get on top right away. Looking at Wilderness, you know, just kind of take it one day at a time, try to educate the guys on our opponents every single day, and kind of look forward at, you know, what we need to do to be successful. And that's like any other week, and we always just look at that first game, and that's Friday. So first shift Friday is what we're going to be looking at, how we're going to just execute that first shift and go from there.
Sure. Okay. In the standings, you're looking at the standings. Wings, of course, top of the Central Division. 71 points, 38 games played. Bismarck right now with 47 points and 40 games played. They're in second. Then Minot with 37 points and 38 games played. The Wilderness in fourth, 32 points and 34 games played. St. Cloud 27 points, 34 games played, while Austin is at the bottom of the division with 26 points and 36 games played as they split with Bismarck over the weekend. Well, as I mentioned, 15-17 1-1 Wilderness coming up this weekend as Wings will hit the road. Coach, that's about all I've got for you, but great weekend in Minot, and best of luck coming up against the Wilderness.
Thanks, Jay.
All right, folks, we'll return with the second portion of Wings Weekly coming up after this.
Your bird dog deserves a great hunt.
Let's go. Let's hunt some birds.
So do you. This season, hunt in Aberdeen, South Dakota, America's premier pheasant hunting destination. Experience the flush. Experience the rush of wild birds in wild places. Create your hunt of a lifetime this season in Aberdeen, South Dakota.
We continue on with Wings Weekly, and as usual, a player is joining me, and this time it's Jackson Yee of Farmington Hills, Michigan. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. Well, Jackson, the first thing that I always ask anybody, pretty much when they come on the show, or actually anytime that somebody gets interviewed in a hockey scenario, it seems like the first question is, when did you start? How did you get started? And what were some of your influences early on?
Yeah, so I started when I was 4 years old. It's pretty similar to a lot of other guys' stories. My dad built a rink in the backyard, so I always grew up playing ice hockey on the backyard, and I think that's really where I fell in love with the game.
Yeah. I have to laugh because Seamus Campbell said, how do all these guys have rinks in their backyard? You ever know so many guys? And I'm like, dude, you were playing with the NHL players on actual rinks. What are you talking about? It's like, how can you be jealous of rinks in the backyard? But that is, you know, having that access to ice and just being able to step outside and, you know, go whenever you want would certainly foster, you know, like you said, a love for the game. With, you know, instead of having to, I don't know, get rides places and stuff all the time or whatever, it'd be nice to be able to just step outside. So very cool. You mentioned, you know, that your dad built a rink. Did you have any family or anybody that played hockey at all, or any athletic influences at all?
I mean, my dad, he played hockey, but he was late, so he started when he was like 30 years old. So he's always just a beer leaguer. He wasn't anything special or anything, but yeah, I got my brother into it. So he's 10 years old, so now he loves the game because he watches me, and you know, he loves to see me play. So, sure. But I'd say I was really the first one to grow up playing hockey in my family.
Right on. Well, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your style of game, because I think pretty much everybody, as soon as you put that sweater on and took to the ice, could see that you like to hit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I think I actually got a lot of my style from like growing up. I actually watched Tom Wilson. I don't know if you know who that is. He plays for the Capitals. But I watched him playing a lot because he was like kind of similar to the Wings. He was the junior hockey. He was a guy on the junior hockey team that I watched growing up. Mm-hmm. So I think I got a lot of my playing style from him.
Excellent. Well, there are guys, I mean, that's, you know, it's part of their game. You know, it actually kind of gets them going, you know, to be able to finish the hit and so on. Then there's others that will kind of shy away from it. But as I mentioned, I think I know the people, a lot of people in the stands that I talked to, friends of mine and so on, were immediately impressed. They're like, well, this kid is not afraid to get physical, that's for sure. So, and every team needs that. You know, you need a little sandpaper and stuff. So
absolutely
makes a big difference. We talked, you know, about playing style. I wanted to ask you kind of a funny question, you know, in a sense, that when we go on the road, I always notice the hats. I've never been around a Wings team that has had a team that has, or had players, I should say, on the team that wear so many different hats. You've got cowboy hats, you've got bowlers or bucket hats, you've got, what do they call them? The skull caps, slouch. All these guys have different hats. And I think that's kind of cool. But where does the style of this team, well, who's got the best style is I guess what I wanted to ask.
I would definitely say Ferguson. Yeah. I think he has the best style for sure. He just comes into the rink every day. He's got the hat, the cowboy hat, as you mentioned, and the pea coat. I just think he looks great every time he comes to the rink.
Yeah. Well, and Seamus Campbell, I mentioned him earlier too, but he seems like, I'm like, how do you carry that many hats with you when you go on the road? You know, like he's wearing one Friday and then a different one Saturday, and I'm like, do you have hat boxes that you carry these in, or how does that work?
Yeah, he always has a collection of hats. He actually stole a couple of my hats. He lives with me. He stole a couple of my hats, so he always has a bunch of hats that he's looking at, scoping out.
Nice. I love the style points for the Aberdeen Wings this year. All right, I got a couple of kind of goofy questions I wanted to ask you here, and just kind of philosophical, if you will. Would you rather constantly be tired no matter how much you slept or how much you were able to sleep, or constantly feeling a little bit hungry no matter how much you ate?
That's a good question. I'd probably say constantly hungry, because I'm pretty hungry all the time. Yeah. So it would be kind of easy to get used to. But yeah, I need my sleep, so I would definitely choose that one.
Something they're familiar with is being a little bit hungry all the time. I think you're right, though. I mean, if you're just feeling sluggish and tired all the time, that'd be a whole different thing than if you're, just a little hungry. All right. How about time period? I've asked guys before about if there was somebody that throughout history that they could sit down and have dinner with and ask them questions or whatever. But how about a time period? Is there any? Would you rather live, say, 100 years in the future? Would you rather live in the 1800s? The 1970s, maybe a hippie, whatever. Is there a time period that that you kind of feel like maybe it's the music, maybe it's the style, whatever, that you'd be like, you know what? That's when I wish I could have lived.
It's a good question. I'd probably say maybe the 80s or 90s, and I say that because the game was different back then. There was a lot more fighting and hitting, which is kind of like the style I play. But also, I'd say, I just felt like there was a lot more, I guess, looseness when it comes to playing outside and just hanging outside and being with your friends and stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like it was a lot different back then, and I feel like I would fit in a lot better.
Well, I can tell you that is exactly the case. Coming from that time frame, you went home when the street lights went on, and otherwise you were outside riding a bike, playing with friends, and all that kind of stuff. So I think there's a lot of truth to that for sure. All right, another question here. Would you rather be loved by all or feared by all?
I want to use the Office quote because I know that's like a good answer, but
Megan handed you that one.
Yeah. But if I were to choose one, I would say probably loved by everyone.
Yeah.
I think that would be the better option.
I want everyone to be afraid of how much they love me, I think, is the line from The Office. And the funny thing is, when I wrote that, I wasn't even thinking of it until Megan mentioned it. But because being feared by all, there would be some. It's not like everyone's going to be scared to death of you, but at least there'd be a level of respect. I suppose loved by all, there would be that as well. But anyway, enough with the goofy stuff. Going back to some hockey, we go back on the road again with the Minnesota Wilderness. Now, this team you haven't played since early February, and it seems like playing the same teams over and over again, and Wilderness not one of them. What do you do as a team to prepare for the Wilderness this week? We talked with Coach Hill, of course, about how you take one day at a time and look forward to that Friday matchup. But having a team coming up that you haven't really seen much, it's got to be a little bit different feeling, I would think.
A little bit, yeah. we still go over video and see how they've been playing recently and adjust accordingly. But I think if you haven't played them as much, you don't know too much about their style. You have to kind of figure it out a little more. But I think we do a great job of preparing no matter who we play. But I think we'll be ready for sure by this weekend.
New trip to Cloquet, and a longer one. Well, as long technically as Austin, but it feels a little longer. Going up to the Iron Range this weekend. Another question that I like to ask guys, do you have any superstitions or anything like that you have to do on game day?
I don't have any superstitions. No, I have a lot of routine stuff I do.
Yeah.
I used to be more superstitious, but the problem is if you don't do it right, then you have a bad game.
Yeah.
Or like you get that in your head, and then it doesn't work out too well. So no, I have a lot of routines. Like I'll always have pasta before the game. I'll always kind of show up at the same time, around 4:30ish. I always do the same things, like tape my stick, like right when I walk in. Fill my water bottle. But I say it's more routine, not like I have to do it at a specific time or a specific way.
That's an interesting point, because I've actually taught myself this very thing, or that very thing, because I would get really superstitious about weird things, and then I started to realize that this is becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like you said,
exactly.
If you have to get coffee at a certain time or whatever, and then something works out where they're out of coffee or whatever, then you're like, oh my God, you panic, and you're like, it's all going to end badly tonight. No, that's not the case.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to get into your own head too much, so
Right.
I don't think about it too much.
It's a very good point, not getting into your own head and getting ready to go. All right, well, Jackson, I think that's about all I got for you. Anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Shout out to my parents, my brother Gavin, my sister Maddie, and then my dog Henry.
Dog Henry, nice. Years ago, Jack Kelly was on the show, and I asked him about things at home that he missed, maybe food, whatever. And that was the first thing he said. He turned to me and goes, I miss my dogs. And I was like, you never think of that. You guys are away, not only from family, but from the pets, too. All right, well, Friday and Saturday, March 26th and 27th at Minnesota Wilderness. 7:15 puck drop, both Friday and, Friday night only, 7:35 on Saturday night. You can watch the games at Buffalo Wings and Rings in Aberdeen or on hockeytv.com. Listen on 94.1 The Rock, hubcityradio.com, or The Rock app. Next Wings home games are Friday and Saturday, April 2nd and 3rd versus the Minnesota Wilderness. So 4 in a row with them. Then the tickets are available at tickets.aberdeenwings.com. Important upcoming dates: Aberdeen Hockey Night, Friday, April 2nd. Girls Varsity will be recognized in between the 1st and 2nd. And Yelpa's Shrine Teddy Bear Toss is coming up Saturday, April 3rd. Everyone always looking forward to that game. Season Ticket Appreciation Night is April 16th, and Parents Weekend coming up May 14th and 15th. Corporate night sponsorships are still available for home games throughout the 2020-2021 season and playoffs. Call Aaron at 605-380-5852 for more information. Don't forget, Wings Weekly is now a podcast. Find the audio for this season's episode on Spotify, Stitcher, or iHeartRadio. And for all the latest news and information on the Wings, visit aberdeenwings.com or follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram. Once again, Jackson Yee, thanks for coming on the show, and we appreciate you taking some time with us, and good luck coming up against the Wilderness.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, folks, that'll pretty much wrap up this week's Wings Weekly.